Okay, everybody, before the bell rings, I just have a quick announcement. I'm going to break up the class into small groups. Now, each group is going to be able to choose how to do the final report of our evolution of taxes unit. Well, let's have a little bit more positive attitude, shall we? Okay, as I call your names, form these groups. Jameson, Harvey, Ortega, Lewis. How about going back there for me? Lopez, Davis, Sung, McLaren. Come on up front. Peterson, Bryant, Moser, Klein, why don't you guys head back there?
Class is over in 10 minutes. We better get started.
All right, guys. Why don't we get some costumes together, find a big empty barn, and put on a show about taxation? What do you think?
Kyle, grow up. This is serious. It counts for part of our grade.
Mr. McLaren, will you join your group, please?
Listen, why don't we just divide up the points we have to cover on the evolution of taxes and do our own reports?
But we have to present the report to the class as a group.
So, we'll read our reports together. Unless anybody has a better idea.
Look, I'll do the history before the income tax. That's the Whiskey Rebellion stuff.
I'll cover the material on the income tax.
Then I'll do the historical development after the 1913 Income Tax Amendment. Travis?
What's left?
You get the part on how and why the tax system was developed.
You lucky dog. So what's the deal? I mean, do we have to get back together? You know, as a group.
I think we should. It has to be a group presentation. How about next Wednesday after school in the cafeteria?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Mr. Friedman? Are we going to get individual grades on this project, too?
Well, I know that on your own you put in 100%, but I'd like to see you really work on this project as a team member.
Yes, sir. This is going to be a disaster.
After the American Revolution, there was no nationwide tax system. Each state raised its own taxes and states even taxed each other. Most people associate taxation with the federal income tax, but the income tax was not part of the Constitution until 1913. Oh, guys, this is so boring. Can't we figure out something else?
Well, maybe when Travis bothers to show up, he'll have a brilliant idea about how to do this.
Sorry I'm late, guys, but my dad told me I could use his laptop, but he needed it today, so I had to go back home and get it.
You did your report on that?
Yeah, it's not done yet, but I can show you what I have so far. We'll just have to go to the library to use their computer.
Then come on, guys, let's go.
Taxes were needed to finance wars and pay for government services like coining money and enforcing laws. So the purpose of the tax system was to raise revenue. It was also influenced by our government's desire to be fair to the different people who pay the taxes. Over the years, the tax system was also affected by attempts to influence people's behavior. In other words, how they spent or saved their money. Like I said, it's not done yet.
Yeah, looks pretty crummy. Why didn't you tell us you could do all this stuff?
It's terrific.
Hey, guys, reality check. This project is due a week from Friday. I don't think...
Can we put everything on computer?
Sure.
We don't have time.
We do if we start now and stop talking about it.
How'd you get that photograph on there?
I scanned it.
Can you scan something I draw?
Yeah, that'd be easy.
Yeah, and we should put on some graphs, too.
I have a good program for graphs.
You know, the library has a database file with all kinds of historical photographs and engravings and pictures. My art class went over there one day and they showed us.
That's cool. We can go to my house and use my dad's modem to hook into the library's database.
Okay, so we'll get our research together, then we'll meet at Travis's house Friday after school.
We'll have to work all weekend. Nina?
Look, I just think it's a waste of time, that's all. Look, I'm gonna go to the library and I'm gonna work on my report.
It's supposed to be a group project.
But you all just care about making it look fancy, and it doesn't matter what it looks like if you haven't done your research.
I want you all to know and I've gotten permission to use the school's closed-circuit TV to broadcast the best class report. So good luck.
Mom, I'm not too sure when I'll be back home tonight. Yeah, it won't be too late. Okay. No, Mom, I'm not at a party. Yeah, I'm doing a school report. Yeah, I'm doing homework on Saturday night. Okay. Yeah. No, you don't have to worry about that. Okay. I got you. So I'll see you later tonight. Okay, thanks, Mom. Bye. She's in shock. I can't remember the last time I spent Saturday night doing homework.
Well, come look. Like it?
Wow, you did a great job with these pictures.
Is this really going to work?
Yeah, I just gotta get the artwork in the right order. Hey, Kyle, why don't we record your voice now?
Okay. I'm ready.
Don't worry. If you mess up, we can just keep recording until you get it right.
Okay. After the Revolutionary War, the new nation was governed under the Articles of Confederation. These articles did not give the government authority to raise taxes. For revenue, the new government relied on voluntary donations from the states, and this system didn't work very well. So when the government under the Constitution was established in 1789, Congress was granted the authority to levy and collect taxes. The tariff, a kind of tax that charges duties on certain goods, provided most of the government's revenue from 1789 until the First World War. One of the first things the Congress needed money for was to pay the debts of the Revolutionary War. So Congress enacted import duties, a tax on goods coming into the country, and also passed excise taxes on distilled spirits such as whiskey and rum, on tobacco and snuff, refined sugar, and other items that people used in their daily lives. These taxes were passed to raise revenue, but the other purpose behind for the taxes on whiskey and tobacco was to influence behavior. Excise taxes made whiskey and tobacco more expensive to discourage people from consuming them. These new taxes were not very popular with some. A group of farmers in southwestern Pennsylvania opposed the tax on whiskey. The farmers were corn growers who converted their crop into whiskey because that was the easiest way they could get the corn to market across the mountains. They protested that the tax was unfair to them. They refused to pay. There was talk of armed rebellion, and in a few places, they tarred and feathered the government tax collectors. President Washington sent federal troops to suppress the rebellion, and it was settled without fighting. The president's message was clear. The federal government was determined to enforce its power to collect taxes. Many important events in the history of our tax system are connected to wars. During the War of 1812, the government needed more funds to fight the war, so Congress passed excise taxes to help raise money. To help finance the Civil War, Congress passed the first federal tax on the personal income of individual citizens. This income tax caused a lot of controversy, and in 1872, Congress repealed the law authorizing the federal income tax. 22 years later, in 1894, another income tax law was passed. This law was declared unconstitutional in 1895, when the Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution would have to be changed if there was to be a federal income tax.
Hi. I could use a pizza.
Yeah, let's get a pizza.
I just can't believe how great it looks.
Yeah.
It's your turn coming up.
I know, but what are we going to do about Nina?
I don't know. I'm gonna get the pizza. Pepperoni, green peppers, anchovies.
Nina, can I see you a minute? I've been talking to Allie, and I'm a little worried about how your project's going. Now, if you're uncomfortable using computers, there's a computer lab that you can sign up for.
It's not that. I just don't think it's fair. Travis never does anything, and now he's going to get a good grade on this report just because his dad's rich and they have all that fancy computer stuff.
Nina, if that's what's worrying you, I think you have the wrong idea about Travis. Why don't you just go over there this afternoon? Allie said they'd be working there. Give it a chance?
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Mr. McLaren. Are you part of this great taxation report? Yeah, good. The kids are in the basement. Come on in.
Thanks.
Is that the photo you want?
Yeah, that's it. Put it last, okay? Oh, Nina's here.
Oh, right. We hoped you'd come around.
Your dad let me in.
He's a building contractor, owns his own business, but things are pretty slow right now.
Are you ready for my great performance?
She means her third great performance. We're not exactly on a roll here.
What are you guys up to?
I'm putting my voice on tape.
We'll get it right this time.
Okay, are you ready? Okay. Part of the pressure for the federal income tax came from citizens concerned with tax fairness. The taxes in place in the early 20th century were tariffs and excise taxes, and these can be described as regressive taxes. A regressive tax takes a larger percentage of taxes from people with low incomes than from people with high incomes. The purpose of the income tax was, in part, to create a tax that took into account the differences in people's wealth and income. A progressive tax takes a larger percentage of taxes from people with high incomes than from people with low incomes. The drive to create a tax looked on as fair was so great that Congress proposed a constitutional amendment to allow the federal government to levy a progressive income tax. By 1913, 36 states had ratified the 16th Amendment, making it a part of the United States Constitution. At first, only those with very high incomes, less than 1% of the population, were required to pay the new federal income tax. But the new tax was here to stay.
Way to go, Allie.
Right.
Way to go, Allie. You did it.
Finally.
It's amazing. Where did you find all these photos?
History and art books, and Travis got a lot of them through the library's data bank.
Gee, it's too bad we couldn't use some of that old newsreel footage from my section. You know, like some of those old World War II news roundups like we've seen in history class?
Your section? You mean you're going to do the report with us?
I'm so glad.
Hold on, Nina's got a great idea. I should have thought of this before.
Seriously?
Yeah, all we have to do is get it off a laser disc.
Where do you get those? On Mars?
The high school's connected to a video disc database. They'll have everything. Let's call to see how late we can get connect time.
I'm glad you came. During World War I, the income tax was increased, but still only a small percentage of the population had to pay income taxes. In the 1920s, the economy grew, and so did revenue from the personal income tax. Congress actually cut tax rates 5 times, but still collected enough money to run the government because of the expanding economy. Then the Great Depression of the 1930s changed our entire economy, and income tax revenue fell. In addition, the government passed the Social Security Act to help people without jobs, the aged, the handicapped, and the poor, and this greatly increased the need for government revenues. World War II also played a part in changing the federal income tax system. To help finance the war, the income tax expanded, rates were raised, and the pay-as-you-earn system of withholding that we still use today became part of our federal income tax system. We have what is called a system of voluntary compliance. This means citizens report their incomes, calculate their tax liabilities, and file their tax returns on time. The pay-as-you-earn system makes it easier for taxpayers to meet their obligations in our system of voluntary compliance.
After World War II, our government continued to use the federal tax system to raise revenue and influence taxpayer behavior. This was accomplished by granting tax exemptions, deductions, and credits in order to encourage certain activities. For example, the government encourages people to own their own homes by making interest payments on home mortgages tax deductible. And the government encourages people to give to charities like churches, schools, and social welfare organizations by allowing charitable contributions to be deducted from adjusted gross incomes when deductions are itemized. Attempts to use tax credits and deductions to influence behavior meant less revenue for the government. At the same time, more and more people complained that our tax laws were unfair to certain groups of taxpayers. So in 1986, a major tax reform law was passed. This law lowered the tax rates you actually paid, and at the same time, in order to make up for the lost revenue, broadened the tax base by eliminating some of the deductions that had been allowed before.
Our income tax laws will continue to change to meet the changing needs of society. But what has remained constant since the beginning of the taxation system in this country is the desire to produce taxes that raise revenue, that are basically fair to different income groups, and that attempt to influence behavior.
All right, nice job, team. Oh, by the way, don't forget, book reports Monday.
I was wrong about you, Travis. I thought you were this spoiled little rich kid that never did any work. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I had the wrong idea about you, too.
Yeah, well, what did you think?
I thought you were boring. Well, you never talked about anything but grades.
Now that you mention it, Mr. Friedman didn't say whether or not we got an A on this project. It's a joke, Travis. Can't you take a joke?
The content of Understanding Taxes was developed in cooperation with school and economic education agencies from across the United States and Economics America, the National Council on Economic Education. Understanding Taxes was produced under the supervision of the Agency for Instructional Technology in association with Action Productions Incorporated and Vince Clues and Associates. Funding was provided by the Internal Revenue